Well, hello and welcome to Critical Weight Theory. And I have a bit of a special episode lined up here because some people out there they might listen to an episode or two of this podcast and they'll be like, "Wade, you're too negative. You criticize stuff too much." Well, this episode's going to be almost like a pro Michigan propaganda episode. So how about that? It's going to be almost like it could have come straight from the state of Michigan tourist board or something like that. So again, welcome to the podcast. And today I'm going to be exploring the state that I live in, the state of Michigan. It's a place defined by water, shaped by industry, of course, and connected by an incredible bridge. So, yes, welcome to Michigan, and the pro Michigan propaganda commences. And in case you didn't know, Michigan sits in the heart of the Great Lakes region, the vast blue space in the upper Midwest. It's surrounded by water almost everywhere you look. Lake Superior, Michigan, Lake Huron, and Erie. Four of the five Great Lakes touch this one state, so that's a big part of why they call it the Great Lakes state. It's a little bit obvious, right? And here's something wild. No point in Michigan is more than 6 miles from an inland lake or more than 85 miles from a Great Lake. So, how about that? That's how deeply water runs through this state, both literally and culturally. The name Michigan itself comes from the Ojibwa word Michigami, meaning large water or large lake. Fitting, right? Yeah, of course. And you can almost hear the sound of a splash just when I talk about all of these lakes, right? That that watery image probably washes over your brain as you're hearing these words. With more than 11,000 inland lakes, that's a lot, and the longest freshwater coastline in the country, it's no wonder Michigan is called the Great Lakes state. All that water has shaped everything: its economy, its recreation, and of course, even its identity. Boating, fishing, and tourism aren't just hobbies here, they're a way of life, and of course, they produce a lot of money for our economy. They're a big chunk of it. So, is that upbeat enough for you folks out there? you know, for those who are like, "Oh, Wade, you're too much of a critic." So, Michigan is also unique geographically, the only U.S. state made of two separate peninsulas. So, that's another way in which we're unique. The lower peninsula, the one that looks like a mitten, is where most of the population lives. It's home to cities like Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Ann Arbor. Then there's the Upper Peninsula, where I live, the part of the state that most people don't talk about, or the UP as it's called. It's rugged, forested, and filled with mining history and outdoor adventure. To give you an idea of what the mining aspect is like, well, I have either a great uncle or a great grandfather, something like that, named Axel, who died in a mining accident. So it was interesting to look at the paycheck records of this person and see that, oh, he really did exist. History is, it's a bit more real when you're looking at stuff like that, the actual records of the person existing, or any other thing that could give you an insight into the history of that area, or that member of your family, or whatever. So yes, mining is a big part of the history here, and the two peninsulas are joined by the Mackinac Bridge. I know it's spelled Mackinac, but you pronounce it like Mackinac, or at least that's how I've only ever heard it pronounced. But the Mackinac Bridge is one of the longest suspension bridges in the world. It stretches nearly 5 miles across the Straits of Mackinac, where Lake Michigan meets Lake Huron. It's a marvel of engineering and a powerful symbol of connection in a state that's literally divided by water. So, there's a little bit of a scary fact about the Mackinac Bridge is that there have been at least a few vehicles that have got blown off of it in windstorms. So, yeah, be careful going across that bridge. I've definitely heard the stories and they're actually true. So it's like so many other things in life. If you're gonna go out and about, you're kind of taking a risk sometimes, and you might want to have a heavier vehicle on that bridge. That's all I'm saying. Michigan's story isn't just about nature, it's also about innovation, of course. In the early 20th century, Detroit became the heart of the American Industrial Revolution, earning its nickname of the Motor City. Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, they weren't just car companies, they were engines of transformation, building a middle class and reshaping modern life. So, Michigan has seen tough times too. Deindustrialization hit hard in the late 20th century. Cities and towns struggled, jobs vanished. But in true Michigan fashion, the state adapted to these struggles. So today, its economy is broader, blending manufacturing with technology, healthcare, education, renewable energy, and of course, tourism and the good old service industry. And the hopeful tone is a little bit still there. Despite all of these setbacks that humans can experience. Detroit, once written off as a symbol of decline, has actually seen a bit of a remarkable cultural renaissance. New businesses, music, art, and food scenes are thriving again there. Not to say it doesn't have any problems still, but you know, let's let's give a little bit of credit where it's due. And meanwhile, the state's universities like the University of Michigan and Michigan State, they're national leaders in research and sustainability. And you've also got Michigan Tech, which I live next to, which is, it seems to be doing all right. I actually host a radio show on WMTU 91.9 FM Houghton, which is associated with Michigan Tech, of course. So that's a little bit of a promotion, I guess, a little bit of cross promotion in this episode.